Hello all. Well, it's a beautiful day today, 70s and low 80s in parts of the Bay Area. It's been summer all winter. Every day is just absolutely Mediterranean, 70s to low 80s, just gorgeous. Light fluffy clouds every now and then, so we'll have to go on a hike. But before we do that, let's go over to some interesting news. New eraser. So the UN predicts that the human population will be around 9.2 billion people by 2050. There is a real problem with that. It's called land use. How you use your land for agriculture to feed this many people. Nowadays, the land is basically scraped to be level so that the water will seep in evenly throughout the land. It's also not fertilized in the old way. The old way used to be compost or horse manure, cow manure, something like that that would sit out for a year or two and then be layered all over the land. And then the crops would be rotated so that corn would grow here and melons would grow over here and wheat would grow over here. And then the following year this would be left fallow to have weeds and crops that put nitrogen into the ground, and then they would move on to here and grow something, and so on and so forth. They would change these things out so that these would stay fallow or non-planted. They'd put marijuana used to be planted because it puts nitrogen in the soil. So anyway, they what's called crop rotate, and then they take this stuff and put it all over the ground for a year and let it soak into the soil and fertilize the soil for the next crop. And that's been proven to work for millions of years. The Aztecas used that method, and so did many other agricultural people before our time. But now, look what we do. Oh, doesn't that work beautifully? Oh, look how fast. Clean. Nowadays the land is, as I said, it's leveled off, and then a machine comes and sprays out all this chemical all over the ground. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and I forget the other one. NPK, nitrogen, I forget, there's three of them that are in these, and they're sprayed out depending on what they want to grow, and that's all that's done. And then the seeds are put in and the crop grows, and that crop depends on chemicals being thrown out in the field every so often to feed the plants that grow nowadays. And every time that does that, less and less organic material is in the soil because there's no organic material put into the soil in the first place, such as compost. That's just not done. So there's another problem. Hello all. So here we are on another hike, and these type flowers have now come out and they're a lot smaller this year because of the drought, but they're still here. They're still pretty. They're out much earlier than normal. Alright, so let's talk about what's happening with the land that we have, and are we able to get any more land from virgin territory, which has not been developed yet and is still wild. Let's go to the board and look at something else that we haven't talked about yet. Okay, 1/4 of all the cropland that we've been using out of a circular chart, 1/4 of that is now degraded land. In other words, the land isn't good for growing anything on and is being taken out of production. Another 1/4 of all agricultural land is being used for the livestock industry. Meat, poultry, fish, that sort of thing. So that leaves all the land that you have is only half of the usable land is still usable. It's so important that we put this land back into production if we're going to end up with 9.2 billion people by 2050. This land won't even be enough. We'll need about 3 years by the time we get to that number. But we have to watch out for everything we have. So what can we do? First of all, what you eat is everything. Anything and everything is connected to what you put in your mouth. If you're putting meat in your mouth, you're causing 1/4 of all the land to become non-usable other than just to raise meat. And you can get protein, all that, out of vegetables and turn that into a more vegetable crop. The damaged land is hard to fix, but you have to go back to that old style of composting and spreading compost all over the land, and crop rotating, so that you can fix the land before it has a chance to become degraded, and then you get all that old land back. It is repairable. And right down here is another group of them. I appreciate all the likes and the new subscribers and the like. And today's a little bit shorter of a video. Maybe next week we'll get some more interesting oil news. Right now it's a little flat, not much going on. There's some more talk about how the oil market in the U.S. is starting to thin out more and more, and that's why they had to use this new pipeline that is the bottom half of the Keystone pipeline, is now being used to bring down some of the fracking oil down into the Gulf states to try and get that online. But all in all, we're still we're able to get less and less out of the ground here in the U.S., even though the corporate press says otherwise. Oh, it's really quite nice again today. 70s probably, might get some low 80s. But let me show you what this forest here, I'm over in a different forest, and I wanted to show you a little bit of what it looks like. Very dry, looks a little dismal. So until next time.